Welcome to The Secret Mind. This is the next part of my unpunished submissions of a police doctor. Sometimes, pretty often actually, your patients just don't want to see you. But the FME, Forensic Medical Examiner, does not attend because people are concerned themselves. We see people if others are concerned for them. Novel, isn't it? Perhaps we should roll it out across all of medical care. And so follows the "I didn't ask to see the doctor" scenario. Simply repeat the quoted phrase, inserting as many expletives as you feel the sentence can reasonably sustain, and then add a couple more in for good measure. You may surprise yourself at how many can be squeezed in. The fact is that many do ask to see the doctor. After all, there's always the theoretical chance of a little bit of Valium to speed the night away, and it doesn't hurt to ask. Many make no such request, but, in the words of Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds, still, they come. The concerned parties of our tale are, of course, the police, the busies, as they are often affectionately known around these parts. This possibly derives from busybodies, poking their noses into other people's business, or alternatively, being too busy to help you when you want something from them. Just etymology, lads, nothing personal. For the record, I bear no residual grudge for the £80 instant penalty I was given in 1997 for having my tax disc on the wrong side of my windscreen. Lord knows, I understand you have targets. I didn't ask to see the fucking doctor. Usually, the caged will tolerate your existence. You can almost always persuade them that while you're not the cake trolley, there might be some legitimate usefulness to a doctor's visit. And a house call as well. That has to be worth something. The truth is that the novelty of someone engaging with them in a useful, meaningful, and therapeutic way can be as sweet a result as the chocolate eclair or lemon drizzle cake that, under current catering contracts, isn't going to be coming round anytime soon. Simply put, overcoming that initial resistance is not usually a problem. Usually. Once you've got into their cell, or they have joined you in yours, the medical room, you can pretty quickly engage and gauge where people's barriers are without needing to get overly deep into forensic detail. I'm using the word forensic as relating to the police rather than the favoured descriptive of the degree of detail. Basically, it's not just my job to be too nosy about how they've ended up here, even if the curiosity is tweaked. There have even been plenty where I've felt the less I know, the better. Personal barriers are up for different reasons, of course. Feelings of suspicion, guilt, nervousness, ennui, anxiety, familiarity, shock, not the medical kind, but the rather mild surprise that you read about in the tabloids. Equally, there might be too many drugs, too few drugs, anger at the universe from the beginning of time until now. That sort of thing. They may be relevant to today, last year, tomorrow, or the 10th anniversary of something or other. Hey, you might even find a bit of common ground in that world. And if you do come across a closed door, you might choose to help them paint it. The existence of and need for barriers is obvious and universal. There's nothing requiring or requesting you, of all people, to smash them in. Please do tell this to the psychologist, should you bump into one. But neither are they to be used as an excuse for failing to engage with people. You don't need a magic wand to try and see their pictures. All we need to do is take a little time and spend a little effort to bother. Why not keep that perspective foremost in your mind? The fact is that you don't have to, of course. You won't get paid any more for it as a police doctor. Nobody will pick you up for it if you don't do it. But that's what a half-decent doctor does. I can't put it any simpler than that, without being rude. If you do find the inclination, time, and skills to open those gates, remember the country code. You may wish to close them behind you. Of course, the detainee who's been bathing in the fragrant stew of custody for a while may not appreciate being killed with kindness. Kindness is a powerful weapon indeed, but there's no need to kill with it. A little gentle wounding is frequently enough to make a memorable encounter. I introduced myself, as per usual. I don't want to speak to the doctor. I don't need a doctor. Well, I'm just here to identify any medical problems and get out. It's in case you have anything related to your health. I said, get out. Time for the Kilburn Gambit. I'm here to speed up your process, not slow it down. Fuck right off. All right. Is there anything else I can help with before I go? Just get me a duvet and fuck off. Okay, so not every effort works, but you have to persevere, don't you? Wasn't it the great Nick Berry who taught us that every loser wins? And he was in Heartbeat, so he knows what he's talking about. I always like to be dismissed 5 times before actually going. I sniff at the lazies who fall at the first hurdle so they can get back to documenting their notes. Patient declined interview or examination. This is so often what I see psychology practitioners doing. A doctor should not easily do the same thing. Your entry in the notes does not acquit the risk in any defendable way. In fact, that risk in those circumstances may be considerably heightened. The fact remains that you do not need to accept the first no. Why shouldn't they say no at first? They don't know you. You're not all that, as the kids probably say. You need to make some effort to know where the no is coming from before you accept it. It's called a duty of care. Try asking someone if they're going to kill themselves 30 times a day. But before you record the verbal answer as gospel, look for the non-verbal one. Remember to look in their eyes. Listen to the tone. Examine the subtext. Learn to phrase the question differently from the way it appears on some standard farmer-sponsored pro forma. Then you might find yourself on the first rung of the ladder that leads towards real answers. When you engage people on a human level, you might even discover that finding those at genuine risk isn't just luck, after all. Persist. Be inventive. 9 times out of 10, you can get over the detainee's suspicion and irritation and enjoy a genuinely useful and meaningful dialogue. But not this time. A duvet. That was a new one. I don't know what soft, southern, cushy custody suite he'd been visiting, but a duvet? Certainly. Would Sir prefer goose or duck down? Oh, I bring awful news. I've checked the inventory, and we seem only to have a thin blanket in stock, and I wouldn't wish that on his lordship. 1,000 apologies. I do hope this hasn't put you off being arrested by Northumbria police in the future. The exchange didn't go quite like that, of course. And at that point, I do usually actually just fuck off. But I never do so on the first request. I usually try to stick around for about 4 more iterations before actually fucking off. It's a balance. On the one hand, risking further winding them up and the inevitable threat of physical violence. On the other, the need to do a job to the best of my ability and find a new trick in communication skills. Many detainees do see the ridiculous comedy of the situation, smile, and we break through and we get on with the chat. So it's a balance with a twist of humour. One of the most powerful human weapons in custody. And of course, everywhere else. See you tomorrow.